guys, Dan here with another Comic Weekly wrap-up to share with you the books/trades that I've read for the past week. I know it's a different change of scenery, and the reason for that is I cannot film in the room that I usually film my weekly wrap-ups because it's just so dark. With winter being here, I need a room with better lighting because, honestly, I'm not going to put out videos that have poor lighting in them. So that's why I moved to a different room with better lighting, so hopefully this works out a little better. And I also hope that you're here because you love comics as much as I do. The first book I read for the week is Runaways, Dead End Kids. I think this is volume 8. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's volume 8. I didn't know that. I thought the Runaways was a mini-series, and I thought it only went up to so many editions. I did read some of the smaller books that were like this in the beginning, and then I ended up reading like a compendium that was like a total compilation of so many stories. And I guess they continued writing more after a while, so I'm going to have to track those down and try to get the rest of them. But this one is Volume 8, Dead End Kids. Mostly what this one was about was they did a secret mission for a Marvel villain, and I'm not going to reveal who that is. I think you guys should pick it up and read it for yourselves to find out who that was. They end up, meeting the Punisher in the process. They end up traveling in time, and when they go traveling in time, they meet other, what they call themselves, wonders. They're other, like, superhero kids. So it was really interesting. I really enjoyed this just because it had so many different types of heroes and villains in it, and different, plot twists and stuff. So I thought it was really enjoyable, and I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars. It's really worth checking out if you are a fan of the Runaways. I think you might like this as well. Superhero kids, where can you go wrong with that? After that, I picked up Essex County. This is a Jeff Lemire, and I think this is his first, one of his first, graphic novels series that he had written. And I'm gathering that it's semi-biographical because he grew up in Ontario, a province of Ontario in Essex County. So, and I didn't even know that Canada had counties like we do here in the United States. I thought that the provinces were counties, but, what do I know about Canada? I guess I learned a little bit about Canada, but yeah. So, it's like a nationalist type thing. I think that's why a lot of people really like this. There are other Canadians who really enjoyed this because it was one of Canada's, #1 books, and I'm going to be brutally honest with you guys. It was just okay. Yes, I do, appreciate Jeff Lemire's work. I like the Sweet Tooth series and other books I've read by him. But I really did not think this was anything too spectacular. Maybe if I was a Canadian, I would probably be like, yeah, I fucking love this book. But, it was just okay. It's got, stories of a little orphan boy who grows up on a farm, not knowing who his dad is. And this guy who was an ex-hockey hero, and, an old guy who lives by himself. And they're all kind of related in some way because they show a family tree near the end. So it was okay. I'm not knocking it. It wasn't bad. I only rated this 3 out of 5 stars, though. It looks really intimidating because it is kind of thick. But the pages are awful thick themselves, and there's minimal dialogue. So this looks like a monster of a book, but it's really not anything that's going to take very long to read. And I think that was another reason why I just thought, it's just a 3-star book, But I guess if you're from Canada, you might really like this, because I've seen, people were giving it 4 or 5 stars, and I don't know if they were all Canadians or not, but I'm just assuming. It was an okay book. After that, I picked up Superman Infinite Crisis. And the only reason I really wanted to read this is because I heard so much about the Infinite Crisis storyline. And this has, of course, DC had their multiverse at one time. there were different Supermen from different Earths, and one of them happened to be Lex Luthor. It was kind of weird. So, yeah, this was just okay. I was almost thinking about rating it 2 out of 5 stars, but I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. It doesn't really give you much of what's going on. It's just kind of they're on this little planet that's somewhere between the multiverse, and yeah, they're trying to save the day. So it wasn't... I don't know if maybe I had to read other parts of this storyline to really get it, because I really didn't think it was that great, because I didn't have much information to go on from that little bit. After that, I read Tangent Superman Reign, and this is kind of interesting because Tangent Comics, I guess, was an offshoot of DC Comics, and they had created Tangent Comics because they made these one-shot books where they took, like, superhero names and villain names. And this one guy named Dan Jurgens, who I've never heard of this guy, but they gave him the chance to recreate heroes based on the name alone. And the Tangent Comics were his envisioning of these different heroes. Like, one of them's the Flash, the Green Lantern, Batman, etc. This is a storyline within that, and it's kind of crosses over with DC's regular heroes, so that's why Batman and Superman are on the cover. And I think it's kind of weird because they show Superman on the cover, but Superman was never in this book. Not the DC Comics Superman, but the Tangent Superman was in this. So, like, I don't know why they did that, but you know, it was okay. It took me a while to, you know, kind of appreciate this and get into it, because you're just totally thrown into this new world. You don't know any of the characters, and it was okay. So I also rated this one 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was kind of interesting, and it kind of ended on a cliffhanger, so I don't know if there are other volumes of this, but if you're into alternate stuff, and if you want to know, you know, what DC Comics' Tangent line looked like, feel free to check this one out. And I give this a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads too. It was okay. It wasn't that great, but you know. Up next we have Batman Graveyard Shift. This is volume 6. And this book featured a couple of issues that I have not read before, except for maybe like 1 or 2 of them in the beginning. But I thought it was kind of cool because it shared some issues from around year 0 and some events leading up to the Batman Eternal storyline. So I really enjoyed this. I was thinking that it was going to be full of reprints and that I was going to hate it. But it is written by Scott Snyder, who is the guy who wrote, he's currently writing Batman Eternal, and he is the guy who wrote American Vampire. So I thought this was really good, and it gave you a little more in-depth into Batman and some different parts of Gotham history. And we see Alfred Pennyworth's daughter again, and she's kind of in a different role this time. So this was really, I really enjoyed this, guys. I say it was worth 4 out of 5 stars for this book. So if you are a Batman fan, I think you should definitely check out this one. Okay, up next we have Crisis on Infinite Earths. This was a pivotal DC storyline. I don't know for sure, but I think that DC at one time kind of felt like they had too many characters, too many alternate worlds, and that's why they decided to, like, end all of that with this massive, like, story event. Like, look at this thing. It's a beast. Like, it was just... And if this was not just long enough to begin with, it is chock full of dialogue. And I have to say that this was a very confusing story. I mean, it's just all over the place. All I know is that at one point there's this guy called the Monitor, and later he becomes the Anti-Monitor, and he looks more like a robot towards the end of the book. But it was just so confusing. There was so much going on with all these alternate Earths. I just did not like this. I really honestly thought this, I only gave this like 3 out of 5 stars. Because it's a classic read, it is something that is kind of like, you know, when everybody talks about comic storylines, everybody always says how epic this was. So, that's why I decided to give this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I just really thought it was just too out there. It was just so hard to keep up with. But yeah, immediately after that, I picked up Infinite Crisis. Now, this is a direct sequel to the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and in order to really understand what's going on in this book, you have to have read the Crisis on Infinite Earths. If you try to get into this without having read the Crisis on Infinite Earths, you're going to be lost. But this, if you have read the first volume, you'll understand this so much more. And this one seems to sum it all up. This one makes a little more sense. You don't necessarily have to read the prelude to Infinite Crisis, although I did already read that one. And in that one, you know, Wonder Woman, she was naughty, she killed somebody, and the world's like turning its backs on the heroes. But this one, it kind of, you know, it reintroduces Superboy Prime and the Alexander Luthor, and of course Alexander Luthor and Superboy Prime with a alternate Superman are trying to recreate their home worlds because they got destroyed in the Crisis of Infinite Earths. So this kind of brings that back, but this one was a little less dialogue heavy, which I greatly appreciated. It made more sense because when the characters talked, they were talking about what was going on and not like random garbage like I thought was the problem with the first part. So this one made way more sense. It kind of tied up all the loose ends of the first part of the story. And I have to say this was much more enjoyable, and I did rate this one 4 out of 5 stars. Way better than the first part, The Crisis on Infinite Earths. It was just, this one was way better. After that, I picked up the Companion, and I have to say the Infinite Crisis Companion, this was such a disappointment because I was hoping this would have had a little more background to such a great, like, follow-up. But it didn't. Sadly, this was just, like, when I got done reading this, I was like, what the fuck did I just read? Because a lot of these stories didn't really have anything to do with the Infinite Crises. One of them was, like, bottling up demons, like 7 deadly sins that were demons. And I'm like, what does this have to do with the Crisis? It has nothing to do with the Crisis. So, safe to say, I only rated this one 2 out of 5 stars. It was really weak, and if you're going to read the Infinite Crisis or the Crisis, like, books, don't feel like you have to read this one. It's really not necessary to understand the story. By all means, I would recommend not reading this one. It was really just filler garbage, if you ask me. Okay, I have 3 more books to share with you guys, and I think that's going to end this weekly wrap-up. The first book I'm going to share with you is The Hulk Volume 1, and this is The Hulk, the Complete Collection. This features a couple of Hulk stories that had the Red Hulk, and this is when the Red Hulk debuted, and it was all about the mystery of trying to figure out who the Red Hulk was. I do now know who the Red Hulk is, but it was not revealed in this book. And I do have to say there are a bit, you know, of like kind of issues with this, that there are areas where it's just like, well, if knowing that I know now who the Hulk is, why do they show, you know, scenes where the Red Hulk, who he really is, in different areas, and he acts like he's out in the wilderness. So it just didn't make sense at times, and then there was like a time jump in one of the stories that just didn't really make a lot of sense, but I did enjoy this story just for the pure fun of it. It is a fun, action-packed story, and I did rate this 4 out of 5 stars. It's one that I really liked it. I think it was a good story, even though it does have some minor flaws. So, I mean, yeah, it's worth picking up. And I would recommend this to people who are Marvel fans, or if you're wanting, but it doesn't reveal to you who the Red Hulk is. I don't know if maybe it's in the second complete collection, possibly. I do eventually want to read that story, so when I get to it, I'll get to it. After that, I picked up Shudder. This is another Image Comics, and there are some great Image Comics, and then there are books like this. This one had a really strong start. It is an urban fantasy mixed with sci-fi, because it takes place in a world where they're like human-animal hybrid type people. It has, like, you know, she has this one character, I can't even recall her name, oh, Kate Christopher. See, I couldn't even remember her name because she wasn't really very memorable, but she has a robot cat that looks like one of those, like, clock cats, and it's like a robot that follows her around and does things. It seemed like a fun read for like the first half of it, and I was almost thinking it was going to be a 4-star book, but then when I got past the climax, and the climax was kind of like trying to, like, you know, throw out this mystery. And I hate when books kind of tease you and they're like, this is going to be revealed and we're going to reveal it, but no, wait, we don't reveal it. We give you just a little bit. No, I hate when books do that. And this book definitely does that. I hate that a book has to rely on some mystery to get you to keep reading it. There's so many books that do this, and there's books that do it well, and then there's books that just do it like this, and it just didn't work for me. I just really did not think that this was that great of a story. It was okay. I did rate it 3 out of 5 stars, but I'm not in a big hurry to want to check out the second volume of this. It didn't convince me, and it was just kind of strange with the cartoony sub-scenes and the animal human people. It was just, and some of it just didn't make sense, what they did reveal. So, yeah. The last book for this weekly wrap-up is The Last Dragon. It's written by Jane Yolen, I think her name is, and it's illustrated by Rebecca Guay. I really like Rebecca Guay's art style. I do follow her on Instagram, and I discovered her from another graphic novel that I had randomly checked out, and I wanted to see, you know, what other books she has out there. This is a dark horse, and of course it's like a legend type book, but the artwork for this one didn't seem as strong as some of her other works I've seen. It was good, and then the story, I thought the story was really dry. So I only rated this one 3 out of 5 stars as well. But that's that. I mean, if you're into dragons and if you want to see some good artwork, I would check this one out. So that's where I'm going to end my weekly wrap-up. If you're not already a subscriber, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, and plus you'll know when I'm putting up new videos. So last night I saw Star Wars The Force Awakens. I'm not going to say too much about it because I don't want to spoil it. That's if you even made it this far into the video. But I really enjoyed it. If you have not seen that movie yet, you really should get out there and check it out because it was so good. It was really good. But yeah, that's where I'm going to end this video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, later guys.